What is up, YouTube? So, those of you who don't already know, yesterday I was, or the interview that I did on the Concrete podcast dropped. So, I actually flew out to Florida a couple days ago for that. That's why I was wearing the Hawaiian t shirt there. It was a cool trip. And thank you, Daniel, and the gang for bringing me out there for that. That was a good time, and getting to talk about the Bob Lazar case and some of the lesser known stuff involved in UFOs and some of the research that's been done by others that I've kind of put together over the years. So, yeah, that was a cool experience, and I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that we said on there. Of course, a lot of that data and evidence to back up what I was talking about. A lot of things weren't shown on the podcast, and it might be hard to find these things by Googling. So, I've assembled them for you all on boblazardebunked.com with a host of all the pre 1989 intelligence sources for the shape and design of the disc, the pictures of UFO cases from the Billy Meier craft, descriptions, stories from the 70s and earlier, the George Adamski craft, which had the three balls underneath, which were allegedly these gravity amplifiers for the disc, and described it as the disc would turn sideways to fly. And I'm gonna find more of that, because Adamski gave entire lectures and stuff on this in the 50s and stuff. And this comes straight out of that book with the Otis Carr stuff. I got to put the Otis Carr stuff on there too. And yeah, I'm still filling this out with a whole bunch of information. So I'm going to be doing that today and tonight, and including more of that new stuff on the Bob Lazar biography that was released by this guy on Twitter, Signals Intelligence. I reached out to him. He's an investigative journalist. He runs this website called papooselake.org, which is another Bob Lazar investigation site. And he's written a bunch of really scathing articles, and he says he has even more stuff, which I'm not sure if we want to do an interview and a podcast about it. It seems like we really all need to sit down and hash it out in a documentary fashion that really nails everything. So I kind of have some of that, and he's kind of done a really good job with the updated Bob Lazar timeline. The timeline is essential for the narrative and understanding the story and kind of putting all the pieces together. And I've also come up with, you can't find it if you search for a lot of this stuff. I mean, the search algorithm on YouTube is just completely junk, so you won't be able to find it. You have to go to Alien Scientist, go to my channel. And by the way, before you leave Concrete Podcast, go to Concrete Podcast on YouTube and subscribe to there as well, and go check out the interview I did there. Then what we can do is go here to the search bar and type in Lazar inconsistencies, and you'll be able to find my video on Lazar and some of the stuff on John Lear, where I play some of these clips. And I also did a watch party on if you look up Lazar this way. This is how you have to find the videos on my channel. Like, for some reason, if you try to search Alien Scientist and the name of my video, you will not find my videos anymore. So even though all these people are saying that I'm a CIA agent, dude, there was so many people like, oh my God, look at this debunker. He's an obvious plant. He's obviously a shill and an agent of the government. And without doing any research into anything I said. But there are other people that, once I started getting going, really enjoyed it, and I think got a lot from it. And I've got some good emails coming in with good questions and stuff already. One of them was a question on we have to get some more technical people who are experts in this stuff on to talk about it. But I have a bunch of people lined up that we're going to be talking to on this channel and just blowing a whole bunch of new information out there. It's going to be great. Anyways, I wanted to say there was the trolls were pretty crazy. And the Battelle Memorial Institute is another key thing. I did touch upon that inside the Concrete podcast and stuff, as far as where I think the real UFO file stuff is hidden, including the Blue Room. So who's familiar with the Blue Room? Let me see. You probably want to search for these things on my channel, because I've covered a lot of this stuff before, and you'll find these guys were Otis Carr was fined and in prison, so you can find the whole podcast I did on Otis Carr there with some good links and pictures and stuff. And these, but the Blue Room, I want to find. I did a podcast on this where I play the clip from it's Senator Barry Goldwater. I have this clip somewhere. Goldwater on the Blue Room. I know I covered this in one of the videos, but I must not have written the Blue Room in the description for it. So, where is this? Yeah, this is it. This is good. This is it. Hold on. I gotta stop the screen share and represent with the audio. Right. Let's do this.
Former Air Force general who also served as chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee would presumably have the power and the clearance to see anything in the military's arsenal. But when Goldwater asked to see the so-called Blue Room, where UFO material is supposedly stored, during a visit to Wright-Patterson Air Base in Ohio, he was told by General Curtis LeMay that it was none of his business.
But I think that at Wright-Patterson Field, if you could get into certain places, you'd find out what the Air Force and the government knows about UFOs. Reportedly, a spaceship landed. It was all hushed up, quieted, and nobody have never heard about much of it. I called Curtis LeMay and I said, General, I know we have a room at Wright-Patterson where you put all this secret stuff. Can I go in there? I've never heard him get mad, but he got madder than hell at me.
And he should never ask again. Former Nevada Senator Howard Cannon is one of Goldwater's closest friends and says he and Goldwater discussed UFOs and the Blue Room several times.
Could claims that the U.S. military discovered otherworldly spacecraft be true? Is there a room where they keep alien bodies? What are your thoughts?
Well, I will let you know what my thoughts are on it. And as you might know, there is a UFO hearing that's coming up, right? Isn't there a UFO hearing coming up here soon? Let me just find this. So I'm going to find the links to this. Yeah, I know there is. So another thing, a couple things that I talked about, I want to cover on Concrete Podcast, that before I move on to this next discussion, what I want to get into with the hearings next week and that I want to attend. So a Bracewell probe, the difference between the Bracewell probes and the von Neumann probes is, von Neumann is just self-replicating, but the Bracewell probe adds this layer of artificial intelligence, that they're artificially intelligent, supercomputers, which is a crazy idea in of itself. And there may be some truth to these warp drive skin coatings once we'll be able to open up these other dimensions, that we will basically create an AI conscious quantum computer super entity in the process of producing these craft. But that's a whole nother crazy discussion for another time, on the infinite fiber bundles of hot vibrations and hyperdimensional physical reality. Anyways, let's go back to a couple things on Bob Lazar. The one thing I forgot to mention was the FBI raid. So the Papoose Lake is a dry lake. No, it actually floods in the wintertime. And if you look at this, you can see in the wintertime, there's another picture of in the wet season where this whole thing floods. So the idea that there's an underground base here, and this was the mountainside where Bob said it was, this hangar was, right? But apparently this hangar was, according to Bob's original drawings, he said that they'd roll it right out of here and onto the dry lake bed, right here. That there was a path here and this whole, facility. I mean, he mentions like a guard tower and a guard shack and a chain link fence. Of course, none of that has ever been out there as far as anyone has proven with all the satellite imagery we've found going, way back. And even, I guess, they paid for some satellite imagery to be taken of Papoose Lake area back in the day as well. But these flyovers were done by a guy named Gabe Zeifman. If you want to look that name up, you can find that. And like I said, George Knapp covered this story on their site, but then they pulled it down once they realized it, contradicted the story instead of supported it. So interesting stuff on the whole Bob Lazar case, and this is a lot of more documentation and evidence for the things that I was talking about. And I'm going to post the W-2 with the Social Security number on it, so people can go and check that whole thing with the Social Security number on the W-2, because apparently the Social Security number on the W-2 matched the one on Carol Nadine Strong's death certificate, which was Bob Lazar's first wife. And that's pretty crazy if you look that up. We also forgot to mention the FBI raid. So one of the key things in Jeremy Corbell's film is that FBI raid. And, that's another thing. If you go to my channel and you search for, Bob Lazar, I do the watch party. Yeah, the Skeptics Watch Party, where we break all this stuff down one thing at a time and go into all the research that's been done on Bob. But yeah, it starts right off with this element 115 and this raid, and we talk about, no one's made any money off of this story. Well, George Knapp talks about it in his luxurious indoor swimming pool at his house where this was filmed. But again, no one's made any kind of money off this, even though Bob and his third wife, Joy, here have just recently moved the entire company to Oregon and bought, I think it's like 7 or 11 acre horse farm. It's a big place up there, a little bit north of where United Nuclear moved to. But anyways, yeah, I go into a whole bunch of that stuff here, and again, people should check out the UAP technical briefing report that I put together. I have a whole report with a whole bunch of slides and links, a summary to a lot of stuff. And then for people that are real serious researchers and want to get real into it, we have the database on the drive. So let me just find it. It's called ET Engineering, I think. Yeah, here it is. All right, let me pull that over. So here it is. We did the ET Engineering, and if you go under here, you can find a bunch of stuff. I think we have a folder on. I want to see if we have a folder on hydrogen. Atomic hydrogen, survey of hydrogen. Let me see what we got on hydrogen. Yeah, I want to get more stuff. Oh, yeah, we got a whole bunch of fuel from water stuff. I knew we had a whole bunch of science on fuel from water. And I really we want to program an AI actually to dig into this so that we can ask questions directly to the AI so that it can extrapolate from all the data and all the information in here and try to weed out stuff that's false. And although we've pretty much established, there's a certain amount of energy that you need to separate the hydrogen from the oxygen in water to produce hydrogen. So there's a number of frequencies that you could probably use that would maximize that if you get the bond angle and then you get the frequency match. Because I've heard claims about the breaking the bonds using this magic frequency. But I mean, you're only going to get a curve of an efficiency. You're not going to get like a miraculous, spontaneous thing where you're getting more energy out than in. And I don't believe anyone's ever seen that. Although I could be wrong. I would wait to be proven on the second law of thermodynamics. This is a big issue of contention. And, there's a number of scientists out there working on models and things that break the second law of thermodynamics. So, like, do we have any stuff by Modell? Yeah. So Garrett Modell is one of these guys, and I talked about, I found him actually through, Bernard Haish was the guy that I had mentioned he's a CV. If you want to look up a real senior staff physicist for Lockheed Martin, this guy is the real deal. And you can read, the stuff that he's been involved in and look at his, his CV and publications. His publications is, like the stuff that he's written on. And Bob Lazar, the amount of information and stuff that he's published on or really brought forward is very, very little. It's like a very short story that he worked out at this top secret program for a very short period of time. And then, and if any of it's has any truth to it, it's, again, I showed how it's based on John Lear's story, which I can show. If you go on the record with John Lear, you can throw Knapp's name in there too, you'll find it. 1987 on the record. So John Lear, 1987, and go watch this video. If you don't believe me. And this is where he talks about this on the record. And you know what? Today I did something, and I wasn't gonna do it, but I went and challenged Knapp and Corbell to a public debate on either Concrete Podcast or maybe we could do it on Joe Rogan. I don't know. By the way, Joe Rogan recently followed me on Twitter, which is awesome, and hopefully one day I can get on his podcast with some of the people that he's had on. I think it shouldn't be too much of a problem, as long as maybe there'll be some agreements so we don't talk about certain things, but who knows. I'm all game for anything that he wants to talk about, and it would be great to have some crazy debates on this stuff again. But yeah, the stuff that's come out, there's a lot of documentation that, here's the newspaper articles on the whole thing. Apparently she was involved in a robbery murder of some Hells Angels enemy guy. There was a Hells Angels murder, and she was involved in the robbery and the murder or something, and she was sentenced to a couple years in a correctional facility out there. She got out 2 years later. She met and marries Bob Lazar. And I don't know, they're just involved with this whole ring of prostitution and meth and stuff. It's just kind of weird. It's a chapter to everything, and I'd like to see it explained. And if it's all made up in character assassination, that would and you could prove that it's made up in character assassination, that would be very telling of the lengths that people go through to try to debunk the story. But with what I've seen, I don't think that it's Oh yeah, so look, there's Billy Meier here with the 3 circles for the landing pad. So there we have some physical data for the pictures that are referenced. Uh, yeah, interesting. I would love to have seen what was in that original folder that was given to Bob Lazar. But yeah, you go to my channel and the Bob Lazar inconsistencies video. A couple of these ones, but where's the inconsistencies? So I might have to search for inconsistency. This one right here, and you can go to this part in it where he talks about the original story and how it all came to be. Yeah, just start it right at the beginning, around a minute or two, and minute and a half. I go into the alpha probes and how Bob had these contracts still at the time. At the time that George Knapp was interviewing him, he had these contracts to repair alpha probes, and so he was going back and forth all the way from Las Vegas to Los Alamos with these alpha probes um, as part of this contract. So of course he had access to certain parts of the base, but it wasn't nothing classified that as far as anyone's ever proved. And it's an interesting thing because Gene Huff trades a real estate deal to he brings Bob Lazar to John Lear's house and trades him a real estate deal in exchange for all the Billy Meier stuff. So they give him a free appraisal on his house in exchange for all the Billy Meier tapes and Billy Meier documents and stuff. And so these guys I don't know if they sat down or what, but it just is it's interesting that John Lear is involved with all this and is behind it, because John Lear is like an ex-CIA pilot that quit and became super interested in Area 51 and all this stuff. And probably it says he's ex-CIA, but it seems like he was still CIA the whole time. It seems like he was publicly feeding a lot of misinformation and stuff about the base in order to cut, and a lot of other conspiracy theories in general over the years. So I don't doubt that this might all be part of a CIA operation, especially with the amount of trolls that were attacking me on the Concrete podcast, trying to push this narrative forward and defend this narrative. And this is good. This is good. I gotta share this part. This is the key parts of the story, man. So Bob is like showing that he has degrees from these things. You know, I think he's conning a lot of these guys too to get whatever. So no sound, dude. They can't even hear it. Really, bro? Let me see. Anyways, I'll play it again if you guys want me to.
He was still a pretty eclectic fellow. I mean, he'd show up for photo deliveries in a Honda with a jet engine in it, so he wasn't your normal guy. He looked like a scientist and was certainly an interesting guy, even if he owned a photo lab. And you know, not everybody drives a car with a jet engine around Las Vegas, but certainly not in 1985.
And you were sort of instrumental in making the link from Bob to John Lear.
Right. I had seen John on the record with you and was really interested. I mean, John had a lot of UFO history.
We did a show called On the Record, and one of these shows that airs at like 6 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday that nobody watches, and it's a city councilman would be on, and there's John Lear unveiling his beliefs about UFOs and government cover-ups and things, and all of a sudden the phone's ringing off the hook and people are paying attention and calling me up and, hey, when are you going to have that guy on again? So we had him on again, had him on a third time. It was even a bigger response, and that's sort of how I got hooked on this stuff, is that I thought, gosh, this touches the pulse of the public in a way that I had never been aware of before. I couldn't figure it out. So we thought maybe we would look into this. And in that third show, John Lear hinted that he might know a guy who was working out at Area 51 on recovered alien technology. You remember that show, John?
Yeah. And you called me up that afternoon and said, any ideas on what we can do for an encore? And I said, well, I have a friend that just got canned out there. Maybe he would want to talk. And then you set the whole thing up for that interview.
So through Gene Huff, you meet Bob Lazar. And
yeah, Gene called me and he said, I'd like to get a copy of all your tapes and stuff. And I said, well, I need an appraisal. And so we traded the tapes for the appraisal, and he brought over Bob Lazar to hold the measuring tape. And Gene and I are talking about UFOs, and Bob couldn't have been more disinterested. He was rolling his eyes. I mean, he thought this was all just baloney. He just couldn't believe it. He said, look, I worked at Los Alamos. If there'd have been anything like that, I would have known.
Well, first of all, you know, I had known Bob Lazar that long back then, so we weren't as all buddy as we are.
Hey, can I get a copy of your UFO stuff? And I said, Gene, I'm out of it. My wife's, going nuts. I said, I just dropped everything. He says, well, in case you ever need a appraisal on your house, maybe we could work a deal out. I said, you're an appraiser? And at that time, I needed an appraisal to get a second because it was totally out of money. He said, yeah. I said, oh, well, listen, I'll give you all my stuff if you'll appraise my house. And from that day on, he has always held that against me because he had no idea how big this place was. And he claims he got the short end of the deal. But when he came over, the guy that was holding the measuring tape was Bob Lazar. And so Bob brought over his resume, and I'm talking, he handed it to me. And that's when I saw, the degree from MIT and the degree from Caltech.
Where is it? Show me the alternate reality that you believe that doesn't lock up with my actual reality. I mean, where are those other facts? Just show me what they are. These facts you grabbed together and painted a different story of my life than I did.
Could you reveal some of the professors at MIT and Caltech?
Yeah, if you want. I don't have a list of them here. Dr. Duxler, I think, was one of them, and Hochsfield was another. Hochsfield. HOHSFIELD or something along those lines.
They remember you?
Oh yeah, Hochsfield I know well.
These are at MIT or Caltech?
Hochsfield was at MIT. Duxler was at Caltech.
And what evidence to support that?
Right. That,
Yeah, and what's the evidence to support those claims? Is that just something to say?
no, I'm just saying that's the kind
If
of
you have to, if you make a statement, you have to have some evidence to say where the statement came from. It's your basic
point, he took Huff and a few others to the edge of the Groom Mountains to see the flights for themselves. A total of 5 witnesses on 2 consecutive weeks managed to dodge security patrols long enough to see the strange glowing object lift above the mountain.
It came up above the same mountain. It moved around. It did a step move. It actually went up in the air like this and hovered, then dropped way down. Then it just floated around and cruised around, and then it started coming up the mountain range.
This home videotape was recorded during one of the trips to the Groom Mountains.
Okay. Good luck.
Oh, again. Jesus. So I've been given permission to share some emails here, guys. All right. Okay, so it's a live show, and you know what? What's really messed up is I want to talk about some things too. I just want to say some behind the scenes thing. When I went down to Concrete Podcast, we recorded for 2 hours, and then we had to scrap. We scrapped the whole thing because there was an audio problem and an audio glitch. And I'm like, it wouldn't be an alien scientist podcast without audio problems and audio glitches and stuff. And I swear, this is like, I'm sorry if I'm messing up the mute button because I can't. It echoes if I have it open mic while it's playing videos, so I had to mute that. So I'm sorry for that, guys. But I swear, when I was down there, I'm like, we thought it was a bug because of the pulse modulation on the signal and what was going on with it. So like, we were literally looking around the whole office, and we had to stop the whole podcast. And I'm like looking for like bugs because he has all these CIA people on his show, and he had some guy from the CIA on the show for like 2 days before. So I'm literally there like, searching around on the floor for friggin' bugs and this guy in the place. And then we eventually traced it down. We were like trying to see if it was interference with the current and the cables or crossovers. And it ended up being the Behringer board. He just bought this brand new board for the stream, and the USB thing there's something up with the ground. Some kind of interference modulation on the circuit with the ground on the USB port or something, because you can hear the burst signal through the audio very, very clearly, and it's just it was very annoying, and we had to shut the audio off. And anyways, I had bad luck with one of those Behringer boards before. When I was trying to set up for my own podcast, I had bought a 4-channel mixer and had gotten the same problem. And he ended up switching back to the old Yamaha board, and that one worked much better. It was like way better, way cleaner audio. And so I was like, if you guys got a professional podcast studio like they had down there, I told them they should invest in like a Carvin or a Line 6 is middle of the road. I would go with like Yamaha's good, middle of the road. It's Samsung. I don't know. I haven't tried out a lot of them, but I know Yeah, I don't know. The Behringers, I've had bad luck with them too, dude. That's I don't know. So, anyways, that was the audio issue we had there, and but I got permission from Gene Huff to share some things from some of these emails, and he's been talking back and forth with Bob Lazar actually a little bit, and I see. So he wanted me to share something with the audience a little bit, but he's got some thoughts on TD Barnes too. So the Area 51 guy who worked out there for years says Bob never worked out there, and he thinks that he thinks that he's like trying to paint a bad picture of him for maybe because he discredited Bob, or maybe because he claims to speak for all the Area 51 employees. And I was like, well, if you know any more that would talk on the record, I'd love to talk to him. And he was saying that he worked in real estate for 30 years out in Las Vegas, and he's met more people out there who've worked on classified programs over the years than he could even shake a stick at. Apparently, is what he bragged about. So I'm wondering, how many of these guys they knew beforehand. I don't know. It's just the whole story. I'd love to get them on, and love to get Gene on, and Jeremy Corbell on, and George Knapp, and do like a big Bob Lazar. See if we can give Bob Lazar the migraine of the year. I don't know. That would break the internet, I think, if we did that podcast. I think it would totally break the internet. But it's good that I got some new followers and got some new people subscribing to the channel. Welcome to the channel if you're a new subscriber, and I don't just want to bang on Bob Lazar and bring other people down. I want to bring people's education levels up, and I want to call out the people I think are shills, man. They call me a shill and send armies of trolls on my podcasts, and when I start blowing up, I want to be here to defend myself and say, hey, if you want to sit there in the audience, and I mean, it was the same guy. It was like the same 4 accounts, like every 20 minutes, these dudes in the podcasts, right? Every 20 minutes they'd be saying, "Oh God, this is terrible. It's so cringe. I can't watch anymore. I'm leaving. I got to turn this off." Every 20 minutes, but you're there for 4 hours, bro. You're there for 4 hours watching it the whole time. Like, seriously. Oh my God. And then they're saying, they're just trying to contradict everything that I say without really doing the evidence. Like one guy said, "Oh, I just looked him up on the Bridgewater University website, and I can't find any evidence that he has a degree or went to those schools." And I gotta email Dr. Kling and say, how many how many people emailed you this week and asked you if I really went to this school? He's probably like pulling his hair out. I hope he watches the interview, man, because I hope they like what I do and what I've done. I think they will once they see what I'm doing. I get praise from a lot of physicists, a lot of PhDs, and a lot of scientists who watch my stuff and say, "Hey, thank you for doing this. Someone has to do it, man. It's not going to be me. It's better to be you. You can't like." It's got to be some physics bachelor. People like saying, "Oh, he has a bachelor's degree, and it's not even from a good university." So I don't need to listen to anything this guy has to say. I only listen to PhDs from accredited, top school universities. And honestly, bro, if you're a scientist and you read scientific literature, you don't care. You don't only read the papers from MIT and Caltech, bro. Like, You read all the papers in your field in the relevant curriculum. It doesn't matter what university they're from. If you're interested in the subject and you're doing legitimate research, that's it. That's all. It is. Elitism is like garbage, man. Oh, yeah, it never changes. And in any case, I'm pretty excited for the future. I've heard that Joe Rogan subscribes to me on or followed me on Twitter, right? Let's get confirmation of that on screen first. I want to confirm this for everyone. Joe Rogan. All right, follows you. Look at this, dude. Joe Rogan follows you right there, buddy. Okay, I didn't make this up, dude. He's literally following me. Corbell and Knapp, dude. Oh, God. Yeah, I have 100. Yeah, it's crazy, the numbers, man. Well, they can't block it on a podcast like Concrete. So we got out to a lot of people there, man. I got the information out. Good. You know what? And I'm going to be training every day for my battle with on Joe Rogan. I'm gonna start like literally training now. You thought I was good at like naming off facts and bringing up names and all that stuff before. I'm going to train like you've never seen. Yes, debating in the mirror, dude. This is what I do. I run through all this stuff all day, and I try to run through the names of all the people involved. And if I don't know it, I'll go look it up and try to get more information on it. And I try to run through it every single day so that I have that kind of knowledge retention, and I'm able to go on and just rattle off just straight fire for like an hour straight, like I did on Concrete, man. I was just like going off on stuff, and then every once in a while he'd be like, all right, well, we got to get into that, and can you explain that a little bit better? And I would try to slow it down and back it up and really break down all the science as best I could. And the truth is this stuff is like we could go for like hours into some of this. It's crazy, dude. I've worked hard for this, man. I'm not gonna say I don't feel like it's not deserved. So this is only the beginning, and I want to go on Lex Friedman and some of these other podcasts, before I just blow my top. So yes, the notes. I got to get like page. I have I had a little black book that I was working on, and then I gave it to a friend, and I think it might be down at the lab still. Which, by the way, so let's talk about the hearings. Let's talk about the lab and the hearings. I might go down to the lab for a day. I might go down for the hearings. The DC hearings are Wednesday morning at like 10:30 a.m. or 10 a.m. They start. Yeah, March 14th, the watch hearing. This is it, March 14th. No, this is April 17th. So 19th. It's April 19th. So UFO or UAP. Let's see. Yes, here it is. Okay, U.S. Senate committee to hold open hearing next week on UFO sightings. Okay, so it's specifically on UFO sightings. And well, this is relevant because I have a whole intelligence summary report, which you know what, I'll download that to the flash drive with I don't know if we're going to hand out copies of the whole database, because the whole database contains a lot of information in here, guys. There's a lot of stuff. So we have all the YouTube APEC YouTube presentations, like the slide presentations we have on PDFs. We have with sources and stuff and supporting documents or papers related to all the APEC guests, which is that's a ton of stuff right there. APEC is the Alternative Propulsion Engineering Conference, altpropulsion.com, if you want to the conference out. We are going to start holding the conference again, just not like quite so regularly that we were. It might be like a once every 6 months thing. We had to get a lot of stuff out, and now that we've weeded out a lot of the weeds, we're going to start trying to hold a more serious conference like every 6 months, where we have a more dedicated team of scientists and engineers who are working towards building machines that prove gravitational coupling or gravitational force field manipulation or forces or other types of propulsion concepts, including warp drives and negative mass and experiments with polariton condensates. And also we're going to be building that terahertz material that was supposedly given to the CRADA agreement, TTSA, metamaterial. For that, when TTSA rounded up all the pieces of metal from the public and then handed them over to the government, and said that they were helping with disclosure. Weird. I won't have any pictures of that, but yeah, they had this Roswell metamaterial, and Hal Puthoff was all talking about it with the 3 micron layers of magnesium and the 30 layers of bismuth. I have it on one of the slides on my UAP technical summary report. UAP technical summary. Let's find this. Let's find the slide. Shelfie. Where is the one? I talk about what it might be and how it might work, the physics of it. And we're going to basically try to rebuild this with vapor deposition, but we're also working on the types of crystals that can up frequencies. We can start with some high-end gigahertz, which we have capability to generate thanks to some. We went down to Sandia, this place right outside of Sandia, down in when was that? So that we could go to where's the lab equipment video? We went down to this place. This is a warehouse for all the old lab equipment, and I don't know if I did a video on it. I know I recorded one. I never posted them. I should post some of those videos. So we went down to New Mexico and got a bunch of this equipment, and some of it was EG&G, was made by EG&G, including these gigahertz generators. And we bought a couple of these gigahertz generators from that were old EG&G equipment, maybe from Sandia, maybe from Area 51. Who knows? But we got those, so we can produce some high-end gigahertz. And now we need like the type of crystal optics to upgrade up that frequency to terahertz, so that we can get a terahertz. So we're kind of approaching about 2 terahertz right now with what we're capable of doing, but we need to be, I think, in the 9 terahertz range in order to get this anti-gravity effect, according to the physics team that we're working with. So we're trying to get there, and if we can get there one way or the other. Also, I was going to have Brian Kelly on to give his presentation on his idea for light pumping for an anti-gravity and inertial mass reduction effect. But I think we're going to save him for another. We're going to have another APEC conference soon, and we're going to bring him on for that. So we're saving that for for the next APEC conference that we do. And it would be great to get Bob Lazar on APEC. You know, the invitation's always open, and, you know, I don't think that he'll accept it. So I've also given a challenge to Corbell and Knapp. I'm giving them a official public challenge to a debate. And should they accept, we'll see who knows more about the physics. Yeah, so this is Garrett Maudel and Bernard Haish. This is the quantum. I'm going to make sure I put some of these links in the description for people to check out. So, okay, so I'm going to keep it going on YouTube, but I'm going to shut it down on the Twitter stream. So thank you all for watching this on Twitter, who's watching it live on there. And look forward to seeing me on Lex Friedman podcast and Joe Rogan. And we can totally blow all the scientists right out of the water. I'll expose 20 Bob Lazars that people didn't even know about, had no idea about. Maybe those people don't want to be exposed, but I think that they need more funding. I think that they need more, you know, resources and help. In addition to that, so before I remove the on Twitter, I just want to say that people can go to Venmo if you want. Send me some. I'm trying to get some money to go to DC. You know, to get a couple. You know, get a couple bucks together, because I want to go to DC on Wednesday to go to this UAP hearing, and I want to bring copies of my UAP technical summary, and I want to bring there's that material. So the bismuth, 3 microns of bismuth, 150 microns of magnesium, and alternating layers. For whatever reason, I think it's a Bragg reflector. Talk about dielectric mirrors or Bragg mirrors. Looks very similar to, you know, this is an effect that's known in these types of materials, which is why I think that it's what I think it's doing. It's take it, and I explain how it works with a real world example using sound, where they take a single burst impulse of a clap, and the return signal is a high pitched chirp. So these high pitched chirps can break these signals into these modulated waves, but also these high pitches are very those peaks might be so strong that they could potentially, if you had the reverse of this effect, if you do the reverse thing, you can take a bunch of small little peaks and turn it into a gigantic burst. Okay, and that gigantic burst is what you need to break what's known as the Schwinger limit. And the Schwinger limit will allow you to polarize the vacuum. Yeah, this is what Sal Pays is talking about in the U.S. Navy patents and in his interviews. So just in summaries, this is a very lame and dumb person summary of physics, which, again, they're working on this. Navy's funding it. They're probably way ahead of this stuff. At least they should be. I would be if I had tons of funding and tons of money to do this. That's why I'm trying to get to Washington, to try to talk to some people about it and share this info and the intel that I have and the stuff that I've put together over the last 2 decades of deep scientific research into UFOs, taking this subject way too seriously, spending way too much of my free time on it. People say, this guy needs a hobby. No, this is my hobby, dumbass. Wow, you want me to play? I hate golf. You want me to, what do you want me to do, man? This is what I love. Just because I don't love baseball and football and whatever else, man. This is what gets me off, is reading physics papers at 3 a.m. and diving into like deep mysteries and finding a new scientist through, or the colleague of one, and then realizing that he stole all his research from his grad student, who's the real genius, because I need to read all his grad students' work. And yeah, come on, dude. This is what gets me off, and this is my obsession, man. Yeah, I've spent way too much time on this. Yeah, a lot of people have spent way too much time on this. Look at all the people who spent way too much time on Bob Lazar, man, and you're not like, you're sitting here criticizing me, getting a little bit of views on the Concrete podcast, and I get all these haters, man. Meanwhile, Bob's up there pretending to be a senior staff physicist, telling people the secret to UFO anti-gravity technology is just element 115, and that, you know, they've got it all figured out already. And they let this guy get a free pass, and it's cool for him to get 500 million views on some of the biggest platforms out there, man. But God forbid I try to get on here and talk about some real, you know, a whole list of documented science and real scientists and the real physics of anything. And what's going to happen? What happens to me? Oh, I got an army of trolls telling people, oh, this guy, yeah, he's definitely a CIA plant. This guy, yeah, he's definitely working for the government right now, shilling it up. It's silly, dude. Anyways, we're going to have more of these people on. Get Jack Sarfati back on again. Yes. Again, these people have really good physics, real solid math to back up the ideas, and they can speak to it on a deep level. I would love to get Eric Weinstein on with some of my friends, you know, a panel that I could host or put together on my channel, man. That would be epic too, just on the deep physics of this stuff, because I know the gist of it, but I talked to some smart people, some Ed Wittens out there who are real deep on this kind of stuff, and would love to have a sit down table conversation with all these guys. That's another one. This guy hasn't talked much, but I know he's working with Garrett Modell on that free energy stuff. So the quantum vacuum energy extraction stuff that I had up before. So there's some free energy stuff. I'm open to experimental proof, but I just very firm believer in the second law of thermodynamics. So also very skeptical of, you know, these claims of free energy and stuff. And I'm always suspecting that some of these scientists and people could be part of an elaborate CIA, you know, ruse or scam that they're just trying to throw people off with the, you know, there could be scientists that, you know, where they figured this out. So say that they did figure this out, and then they got another scientist who comes along with some crazy idea, and they know he's wrong. And they could prop him up and fund him, knowing that he's wrong, and make him the poster child, make him think he's super smart, play with his ego, put him out in front of the, you know, and they could easily do that with someone saying, you know, that's obviously not Bernard Haish, but there are other, you know, if you typed in theoretical physicists, you know, and looked up images, you might find a picture of one of these types of people. Well, these guys are all pretty solid. This is Freeman Dyson. There's Ed Witten right there. Shokaku. He's kind of maybe one of those types of people too, because he's a big string theorist, and seems kind of easily manipulated, and a talking head in some regards. But he's also done some really good work, and he's also a really smart guy who does real, you know, good physics in some cases. So yeah, we're all such amazing humans, but we're all so limited and human at the end of the day, which is all right. You know, it's okay. I don't blame the fact that Bob Lazar did big pimping, you know, and we go to the Bob Lazar timeline, for example, and you talk about the issues with the brothels. So that was another thing on the podcast. Is one thing I tripped up on. I said, "Oh, he literally ran a brothel," and then I said, "No, he didn't run a brothel." What I meant to say was, I tripped over my words a little bit. And I didn't fully correct myself, and I was too focused on trying to lay out the next thought that I didn't take time to go back and correct myself and really lay that out. So the thing is, there's two brothels. There's two brothels. Okay, so that's where I got mixed up, and that's where I have. So one is, he actually in 1986 he bought into a legal brothel called the Honeysuckle Ranch. Okay, that was the first brothel. It was a legal brothel called the Honeysuckle Ranch, and then I guess they started. They had another illegal brothel called the Crystal Cove, or the what's it called? Cove. I'll cover up live. Newport Cove. They were the Newport Cove apartments on Tamara Street, but I think it was called the Crystal Cove or something was the name of it. But he was this was this prostitute named Toni Bullock, who was Toni Bullock, and she was mentioned in the pandering charge case that Bob was involved with. So there was two different brothels. So I got one he actually bought into and ran with business wise, and or they say he didn't run it, he just kept the books on it. That's if you keep the books, man, you're running things. If you're keeping books too, I don't know what you're trying to say if he's with that statement, some of the people. But anyways, the Newport Cove apartments, it was a different one, the Crystal Cove, and that's the one where Toni Bullock was running that one. She was the madam, and Bob just set up the CCTV camera apparently, and that's what he was busted for with the pandering charge. So, again, there's some pretty wild characters in physics, like Jack Parsons, who American rocket engineer with the JPL, or Jet Propulsion Ames, Caltech Ames Jet Propulsion Laboratory, what would eventually, or the JALSIT Rocket Research Group, and JATO, Jet Assisted Takeoff for the U.S. military. So he was involved with a lot of this early rocket research, pre-space program stuff. So he died in 1952, before 6 years before NASA was created. He died in an explosion. And this guy used to have wild, sex magic UFO summoning parties in the desert with his wife. So he did some wild stuff, all documented that he did it. But he was also a real rocket engineer, and he was, as Parsons' spiritual mentor, Aleister Crowley. I think, he followed Aleister Crowley's stuff and dabbled in black magic and all this stuff. So it was not to say that you can't have and then a lot of the Nazi space program were Nazis. I mean, a lot of the American space program were former Nazis. So just because someone's a bad person or did terrible things or was a sex freak or whatever, a prostitute, ran a brothel, doesn't mean that they're not an awesome physicist and didn't do real science research and real physics research. Then again, what do we have? Bob said he was hired to figure out that it was element 115 and reverse engineer this spacecraft propulsion system, but he doesn't really have the background, and he doesn't have the resume and credentials that these other guys do. So what? People compare all these other scientists who have done weird things and say oh, just because he ran a brothel doesn't discredit the whole story. No, just one part of the whole story that gets left out a lot of times in the telling and retell. in the retelling of the story, because it gets recycled and retold, and just all the facts get edited out to show a one-sided picture always. And never do they talk about real physics or real science. So, and by the way, guys, there's so many, we usually get like 200 viewers, live viewers in a stream, and there's a lot of, maybe it's just because the time of day we're doing this, but there's a ton of new names in the live chat here. Immortal Duke, what's up, man? Welcome. Evil Fandango, Bringer of Change. So there's a lot of old names and a lot of new names, in the chat here. So I'm saying we're probably getting more viewers, and they're just suppressing this some other way, that are suppressing the view counts and stuff, because I think we got way more people watching with the amount of comments we're getting, and the difference in the audience. So it's just weird what's going on. Well, I submitted that report. I submitted my UAP technical summary report to that conference, dude. And I got to make sure when that is. I got to keep up on that, because I would like, if I'm invited, I'd like to attend, and I'll talk to Jack. He'll send me a link if it's live online in a video conference, then I can get the link from Jack. I'm sure he'll send it to me. So, because he already looked at my summary report, he said I give it a B+, which is, hey, I'm happy with a B+, man. That's it'd be nice if I could get it upgraded to an A+, but some of the stuff, but in time, and yeah, dude. No, I find a lot of people like get unsubscribed, or they just came around again and stuff. So I'm glad to have you back, man, and glad to have a lot of new people here. This is awesome, because I almost want to put out some ads at local, like at MIT, to try to find some grad students, or some students from local universities to come help us work on some of the research projects that we're trying to do, and start with some of the stuff we want to do. So, oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, that's cool, man. I wish I got into this stuff back then, but I was just a teenager, so a little bit before my time. That's cool, though. I'm learning from all you. I'm learning from all you old timers, and passing down the knowledge as best as I can. So this came from Leonard Susskind's slide here, by the way. But yeah, this is we're trying to get alien scientist intern program, and we're trying to get more stuff set up, and I'll be happy to put you on some video calls with people and stuff, and give you access to the database if you're a student, and something I said about the physics, or something I talked about intrigued you, and made you want to look into this deeper, and you want to get involved with our engineering crew. Yes, please contact me, and I'd be happy to get you linked up and get you in the database, so that you can start doing your own research. It's just a resource to have if you ever want, books. I spent a lot of time on there. Like there was a lot of for a number of years. There's a lot of these programs you can get, like textbooks. So I got textbooks galore on every graduate level physics text and chemistry text that you can think of. So if you need references for knowledge and stuff, we got it. We got you covered. I got a ton of stuff here. Plus, just hard to find stuff, obscure stuff, and anything related to any type of propulsion concept that's ever been devised is in here. And if it's not, then and you can add to it, then you're the type of people that we want on the team and want helping us out. So you come to the right place if you're one of those types of critics too. So, yeah, I think that Adamski came before the Hannibal story that was put out. That Hannibal story was apparently counterintelligence or something that was put out in a tabloid newspaper. It was put out first in like an Italian tabloid newspaper, and then like it was picked up as counterintelligence or propaganda and stuff. So pretty funny. Heck yeah. But anyways, yeah, keep trucking, guys, and if you can and you can spare something, the Venmo link there. I'm gonna see if anyone sent me Venmo so far, and let me see. Do I have anything in there? No, I didn't get any Venmo yet. So if anyone, I have that Venmo address. My Venmo is Jeremy dash yes. Okay. You want to send me some Venmo? That would be awesome. And if you want to send me Cash App, it's just Cash App JeremyRys. Like this. So if you can send me Cash App or Venmo, that would be cool. A couple bucks for my trip. Help me buy a plane ticket. I think it's like $300-400 for a round trip. Not too much. And plus, I don't know. I might just go down one day for a day trip and not bother with the hotel, so I save money on the expense because it's just go down early, try to hit that conference and be outside like an hour, 2 hours before, so that I can definitely reserve myself a seat on that floor and try to film the whole thing as best I can, document it for the channel, and also document us going and handing out the money. Yeah, if you can send it through, send me some money through YouTube. I won't get it right away, and they take out a bunch, but yeah, that's still cool too. I appreciate the donation there, King Posey. Thank you for that. Yeah, so we're trying to get down to DC, and I want to just get more science on that floor to talk to our leaders down in Washington and the people at this conference about the real programs and opening up this blue room. I want to open up that blue room and get that UFO tech out of there. If there's a blue room at Wright-Patterson, I think that scientists should be super interested in that and will focus on that. And the fact that Battelle was involved with some really interesting early metals research related, that could have been related to the Roswell crash. Super interesting. I think that that's the best scientific foot forward into this that I found. I'm yet to see a stronger, more solid argument that can drive a wedge into this UFO file than that. I don't think bringing Bob Lazar to Congress, as Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp are suggesting, and others, I don't think that that's our best foot forward. I don't think that that's the best idea. I think that, we should go after these programs and go after the U.S. Air Force, which was created just a couple days after Roswell. So there you have it. And yeah, I forget what they take, man. 30% ridiculous. Yeah. So yeah, anyone that can help out, man, I appreciate that. I'll be looking out for your donations and emails if you're trying to get this together. And I think I got a little bit of money that can come to cover some stuff. So everything helps. And please, I just do this all on my own time. Like I am a contractor and I'm trying to work, but I try to do this in between, and I have jobs that sometimes I don't have sometimes I have more time and sometimes I have less time, but you know, people can look me up if they don't know who I am or don't believe who I am. They can come see, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Edward Teller and Lazar. Oh, Edward Teller. Well, I think that Bob may have exaggerated the interactions that they had together. But also the fact I think that people have exaggerated Teller's reactions to Lazar, because he's just frustrated with the story and the attention that it gets and stuff. So they take that as, oh, he's mad because he's part of the cover up or something, and that somehow he got mad. He's mad that it got out, but I don't think there's any evidence there. I mean, Teller straight up says that Lazar's a liar and he's full of crap, and I only wish that he would be more, less emotional and more clear and literal and it. But he's just such a waste of time. It's such a low level of intelligence and all this stuff, and you know what. If they keep, we'll see what happens with our friends George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell, because if they accept the challenge, then obviously it's going to keep this story going and make it go further. And if they deny the challenge, then I'm going to continue to go on these podcasts and talk about these things as much as people want to ask me about them, about the research into them, and don't care. No one's going to stop that. And you know what? Eventually, they're either going to have to, stop posting that debunkers need to beware, because debunkers aren't beware. I've been calling them out for a long time now, and they just try to ignore me, and they've tried to suppress me really hard, which makes me really believe that it's part of a CIA operation. Like, I really think now at this point, that from what I've seen, that the CIA is fully behind the Bob Lazar story. I think that John Lear and the CIA and a bunch of other people helped develop the story for counterintelligence purposes. And, unlike other whistleblowers who have blown up real programs, like go to jail, they arrested this kid up in Massachusetts at gunpoint from the National Guard, leaking, some stuff recently. So you have to look into what happens to real whistleblowers, and the fact that a lot of these claimed whistleblowers are disinfo agents put out from our own government, by our own government, with armies of disinfo trolls supporting them in the false narratives that they push. And you have to understand that the government anti-gravity file, this stuff is a pretty deep guarded secret. It's got to be, and the fact is, the research that is out there is not, the research that we do is not out there. It's just not well known. It's so obscure, and everyone knows about element 115. You got to ask yourself, is that because of the CIA? And at this point in the story, I'm pretty sure it is, dude. It's got to be, like, it just seems like CIA, dude. The cameras and the brothels thing. It just seems like that sounds so Jeffrey Epstein. So like, that was exactly what the intelligence agencies were doing with Jeffrey Epstein. That's exactly why the FBI didn't bust him sooner. This is like, there's so many weird things about the story, and there's so many weird things about the popularity of it and how it's pushed, and how other stuff's so suppressed. I think it's CIA at this point. I think it's a disinformation narrative. I think that best case scenario, if he was brought out there and shown anything, He was given a tour of a fake facility set up by Richard Doty out in the desert and brought to a fake hangar and given a bunch of disinformation by this same group that went on UFO live TV the year before, saying all that stuff. You know, go to the Bob Lazar debunked page, go to the main page, and go down to this video. Watch this. This video right here about the UFO cover-up live, and go watch that. It's a bit long, but it's from 1988. It's very entertaining. It was a television program, and it's a trip to go and watch this, go down memory lane and see, oh wow, they talked about a lot of stuff, the MJ-12 information, the aliens from Zeta Reticuli, and this government Bible and Area 51. So they talk about a whole bunch of this stuff. And even Bob Lazar writes down they have his old notebook from the time period or his calendar. And on the date this aired on TV, he had a note written on his calendar. So he clearly watched this. Yes. Yeah, dude. I'm clearly the CIA agent living in my gigantic, luxurious, indoor pool house here in upscale Pawtucket, Rhode Island. So I'm clearly the one who's the paid shill disinfo agent trying to, it's clearly not Jeremy Corbell or George Knapp or Bob Lazar. They've made no money at all off any of this. They clearly haven't. They haven't made any money. Anyways, I'm gonna open it up to some hangout time. People want to come and chill, come backstage, ask some questions. There's the chat link, and I'll see you guys later. I'm ending this. Peace. All right. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Concrete Podcast, and also subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already. And yeah, if there's anything you want me to cover, email me at thealienscientist@gmail.com. Look forward to hearing from you all and collaborating on awesome anti-gravity research projects which further humanity and bring us to the stars and beyond and Mars. Heck yeah.